What's up, y'all? It's your girls, Doe and Mo, and we're back with another episode of the Rooted Life Podcast. If you're new here, I don't really know why, because we're on episode 4 now.
Ooh,
so y'all should have been here. But if you're new here, we are glad that you're here. Welcome, welcome. So a little bit about us. We've been best friends for 15 years now, 15 plus. We started this podcast 4 years ago and ran into a couple of issues. AKA some beef
issues.
Had to shut it down, but then we came back and now we're excited bringing back a new season. We love to help women grow and glow in the areas of life and relationships. We talk about all things faith, well-being, friendship, all the stuff that brings you so much joy in life. While you're here, one thing we want y'all to do to just like and subscribe so we can make sure that other women who need this get it.
You got it. Well, I don't know why I'm saying you got it. I hope they got it. That's a better way.
Y'all got it.
Hope y'all got it. Last episode, we talked about where our friendship is now and some of the challenges around just making and maintaining friendships as a whole adult, which is crazy.
Adult, not a half.
And today we're going to talk, not a half. And today we're going to talk about some vices and just the connection between like listening to what God is telling you to do and how that is, there's a direct correlation between your well-being. So I'm excited to talk about well-being and obedience. It feels a little churchy, but I think we're going to get into some good nitty gritty that's going to bless some people. So let's go ahead and start off with some glows and grows. You want to?
Yeah, mine's starting.
I suppose I'm pointing and we're recording.
we're recording.
I try to say rolling and recording. I hate when that happens when you're trying to say one word and two words try to come out. It's like, wait, your turn.
We're recording. What am I working on? I am growing I feel like I have grown and am continuing to grow and just let people be themselves, just letting people be people. Okay. I think, in our last episode, we talked a little bit about, you were saying something around like pride and, surprise, surprise. We're always facing pride. But I think the thing that I'm learning is that when you intentionally take offense by other people just being who they are, that's just a symptom of pride. Wow. It's like, I'm just mad because you're different from me. And that's not cool. It's not cool for me. It's not cool. It limits me from being able to love and embrace you well. And so I have grown in that area a lot. And I think I'm continuing to grow in that as it relates to leadership, as it relates to being in a romantic relationship and not just being offended by people being different from me.
Honestly, that could be the podcast. It's been great talking to y'all. No, I'm kidding.
Stay rooted.
Stay rooted.
The Rooted Life.
Why did we used to do that?
Are you an OG? Do you know about that?
Yeah, true.
Okay.
For me, came to the realization a couple months back that none of my jeans fit.
Oh.
Not any of them.
Okay.
And so for long, because I'm like, I must be cleaning these pants wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with the pants.
Yeah.
This can't be me. They
sure.
would my pants would hurt. Not like they didn't just fit. My stomach would hurt because my pants would be like squeezing my little belly.
Didn't notice.
Yeah, because it was tough. And I was like, oh, it's because I'm overindulging in food that brings me comfort because I feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
That's a really hard correlation to make because I grew up in a family, sweet tooth. We always gonna have something sweet, okay? As we're eating, we're talking about what we're gonna eat that's sweet.
Dang. Yeah.
Literally. My mom's like, I went to the gas station. My mom would go to the gas station and buy us candy. Like she would come home with candy for after dinner. So I have a sweet tooth we're working on, but my glow is that I'm doing better at delaying gratification through food.
That's good.
And realizing I want French fries because French fries make me feel like it's my comfort food. Like French fries and maybe like some gummy bears or let me not even talk about it because I'm
getting excited.
Yeah, I gotta bring it down. But yeah, I'm not using food to bring me comfort. And I'm learning to be like, girl, eat a salad, go for a walk, and maybe you can have a piece of fruit later and go talk to God. Like you're gonna feel better. And so I'm just really happy that I'm starting to get my sweet tooth under control after 33 years. It only took 30 years.
Hey, but at least you're here.
But we on our way, baby.
Well, I think that's a great segue into our topic for today. Honestly, using food as a means for comfort. Yes. So today we're talking about vices, y'all. Which is funny because as we were thinking about this episode, I was like, well, what does vices actually mean? You know, I love a good definition.
With the glass.
So I looked it up. I'm just going to read y'all this definition.
Read it.
It's very aggressive, number one. It says immoral and wicked behavior.
Ouch.
Okay, that's what Google said that vices were. I was like, dang.
Calm down.
But for the purpose of this episode, we're really just getting into what you talked about during Grows and Glows. It's like anything that you are using in your life as a crutch to help you navigate the challenges of life. That's what we mean when we say vices. When I was thinking about this episode, I thought about Kevin Hart when he's like, drugs, sex, money. It's
don't remember
like
that. The old ones?
I don't know what it's from, but that's what came to my head when I thought about vices. I was like, oh, those three things can be vices. So as we're thinking about for the topic of this conversation today, it's no secret that the last season was filled with a lot of challenges for us, which naturally means when your life is kind of up and down, that you're running to things to help you navigate the up and down and feel some sense of security and stability. Ooh, so what did well-being look like for you kind of during that season? How are you navigating it? And what does it look like for you now on the other side?
I wasn't even thinking about well-being. I was just trying to survive.
Yeah.
I think there's another level, like even being able to consider your well-being is a privilege.
It sure is.
Because most people are they're just trying to survive.
Yeah. Fight or
and
flight.
I think, just being able to like acknowledge, like being able to even consider your well-being is an extreme privilege that we should like be able to like appreciate.
Yeah.
Because most people don't even get the luxury of that. And so I think last season, because I was unemployed, struggling with my mental health, dating life was trash, personal relationship was trash, didn't have a church. I mean, it just was like,
list goes.
I don't know how much more time y'all have.
Grab the scroll.
Across the room. I think because of that, I wasn't even thinking about, I was not considering my well-being like intentionally. I just was trying to like, God, just help me make it through this season. Like, I just don't know if I'm going to make it through this season. And so I wasn't thinking about my well-being. What I was thinking about, what I said earlier, was just immediate gratification. How can I numb my pain? How can I push these things down? Because what was happening is because what you said, what I had built my life upon was crumbling. I had no direction in my life. I'm like, where am I supposed to live? What kind of work? I went to get this master's degree. Then I worked for a church. So I'm like, I feel like I had no direction, and all the things that I had depended on, my church, my relationship, all these other things, I didn't have it. So I went to what I knew best. Is like, I'm just going to numb my pain with all the other vices that make me feel better, but doesn't actually solve the real deep hurt and pain that I was going through. So well-being wasn't a priority. I think in this season, thank God, I've gotten a lot more clarity about what God is calling me to do in this season and the gifts he's given me to use. And so I think that clarity is helping to drive my decisions. I'm like, okay, if I'm trying to get to that destination of what he's called me to do, then I'm starting to build my life in a direction towards that. Yeah. And that just naturally meant that some things I was doing just won't be able to sustain me and moving towards what I believe he's calling me to. So well-being looks like resting. It looks like I don't make plans during the weekday at all. Like, we can hang out on the weekend, or I'll see you next month. It looks like not overscheduling myself. It looks like a Sabbath. I mean, like having a real day where I don't do anything. Like tomorrow, baby.
Yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow.
I'm about to be on that couch. I'm about to be reading a book. And so it just looks like really getting clear about what God is calling me to do, and then getting clear about the strategies he's calling me to take to get to where he's calling me. That was a long answer, but that's my answer.
That was good. It was rich, as they say.
Thanks.
It was rich, full of a lot.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Well-being. It's interesting too, because like when you're in the moment, you don't even realize that what you're doing is actually not helping you get where you want to go. You just keep going back for kind of the quick hit, and it's like, well, this will just be enough to get me through. And when I think about last season, you know, I just was not necessarily, I wasn't feeling full. It's really what it was. When I looked around at my life, it was feeling very empty. And so I was looking for things that were going to make me feel full, both physically and like what I'm eating. You know, I'm going out on all these expensive dinners.
What's expensive? And give me a number.
Spending more than what I had and more than what I need to be spending on just having dinner with me. Or with me and another person. But really it was just being like gluttonous, just kind of being like, well, I just want to go out and like have whatever I want to have. Spending a lot of time, I think I was looking at it as fun to like offset the challenges that I was experiencing. But it was leaving me like more financially inept, and it was leaving me like even further from some of the goals that I had around fitness, around finances, around just even taking care of myself. So that consistent cycle started to, you know, wear on me. Because at the end of the year, when I looked at the end of 2023, I was just like, dang, I didn't really make as much progress as I wanted to in a lot of different areas. And a lot of that was because my vices were preventing me from really seeing clearly to be able to make a step that would actually move me in the best direction. So I think like one of the blessings of letting go of some of them is that you can see clearly. You can make more well-informed decisions for your life. And so when you say you want to be more financially responsible, when you don't have things like that are throwing off your senses or your ability, your perspective, then you can look at something and say, I could go spend money on this, or I got food at the house and I could just make something at home and watch a good show tonight. And I'll do that instead. So definitely was a journey, but a good one.
Yeah. It's interesting because what you were saying made me think about the fact that like lack can breed greediness, but you don't think that. To me, like lack and greediness don't seem like there's a connection, but when you feel like you're lacking something, you then feel like you have to get everything to fill up that lack, not knowing that like your response to that lack, I don't know, it's just something about, there's some kind of connection there. Help me. You see what I'm saying?
I also think it's that like when you're in lack, you then, the things that you tend to look for don't actually fill you.
Yeah,
which
true.
is what leads you to be greedy. Because when you're in lack and you get something that is healthy for your body, like if you're super hungry, if you eat something healthy, you're full. But then like when you're super hungry and then you tend to go to things like trash food, you eat that, but then because it doesn't actually have nutrition, I now want something else. So it's like I can go have a burger, but then now I kind of want some fries and now I want a milkshake because all of that stuff is empty. So you're not actually meeting the need that you have, which is that like your body is looking for fuel.
And even more, it takes more to fill you up. You have to do more and more every time actually to fill you up of all those vices. You have to keep taking it to the next level to fill up that need. And then you look back and you're like, how did I get to this point where I'm addicted to this thing? Or how did I get to this point where I'm so dependent on this person where I literally need it? It's like, because every time it's like the hit, you need it more. Because ultimately, like you said, it was never going to solve the problem.
Dang.
Wow.
That's just, wow.
Okay.
That's a start.
Yeah, that's a start. Sometimes I wish I had my hair down because I've been wanting to like,
that's a start right there. That's real.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure how to make that pivot, but you did talk about like taking a step in the right direction with God. So I'm curious to hear like, what does that look like on a daily basis for you? Like choosing God's way over culture's way, because it's awkward sometimes. How are you continuing to make that decision to take a step towards him every single day?
Well, I think like the first part of moving in a direction where you're like choosing whatever God wants for your life over whatever you see on the outside or even whatever you desire sometimes for your own life is understanding that it's a spiritual practice to move in a different direction.
Yeah, that's good.
Like if we could will ourselves into being the best versions of ourselves, like we just all would. But we struggle because like we don't necessarily innately just on our own, separate from God, have the power and ability to just, walk the quote unquote narrow and straight, whatever that means for your life, because that means different things for each person. So I think the more that I realized that like, when I would get into this cycle of like, for me, it's been giving up alcohol. And so when I would get into this cycle of like, okay, I'm letting it go, but then I'll find myself going back. And then I'm realizing like, well, that's because like I'm depending on me to resist the temptations, the triggers, like all these things. But when I was like, oh, like I need God to do anything that requires me pleasing God. And so then it was like, okay, this is actually a matter of an exercise of my faith to trust God and say like, okay, Lord, I really feel like this is what you're pressing on my heart, that this is something that I need to give up in my life. Can you help me navigate this? Because I feel weird now telling people that I don't drink. So I feel isolated because our world is like designed for drinking to be a part of every single experience, like all these different things. I went to Napa with my girlfriends a couple months ago, and I didn't really share this with like too many people, but it was much harder than I thought it was going to be, being in wine country with my friends. And I'm like, oh, it'll be fine because it's like the relationship that I'm here for. But the experience was designed around drinking wine to the point where like you were lit and having a good time. And I could tell they were having a great time. And I felt sad that I couldn't be a part of that experience, even though I knew I was saying yes to the thing that God wanted me to do. And so like I don't know how I would have navigated that without him, but all of that to say that, like, realizing that, like, you need him to do anything that he's calling you to do, and he'll help you navigate those experiences and even provide comfort on the back end when they are hard and still sad and disappointing to navigate.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, it's like the litmus test. Like everything, I'm holding it up to the light. I'm holding it up. Like I'm, what does he say about this? What does he believe about this? What is he instructing me? And I feel like constantly doing that, not just with like drinking or other things. Again, we're not saying that drinking is bad or anything.
No,
we're saying that God has given us a conviction that we are following based off of what he's called us to do in this season. And so I think part of it is like, I keep bringing it back to him. I'm like, is this your will for my life? Is this what you're calling me to do? And I think really even more, it's like, I have to check my heart. Like, why am I doing this thing? And what we're really talking about is like our motivation towards these things was to use it as a Band-Aid to cover up deep pain and hurt that God was trying to heal us from. Like, that's the issue. It's not the act itself. It's like, what's bringing me to this is deep pain and hurt that only he can fix and heal. And these other things are just going to waste my time, leave me feeling exasperated, exhausted, and honestly, just a cycle of self-sabotage. So I think I just keep bringing it back. I'm like, what's your will again? So why are we not drinking? Like, I got to, even after he says like, wait, so let's come back. So why are we not again? Wait, just remind me why we're not.
Tell me again.
Okay, so why? Oh, I'm not dating right now. Why again? Let's tell me. What was that? Why? So I think it's okay if you have to keep going back because I'm like, is this still it? Or are you giving me the green light to
pivot? Or
can we do
we're
here?
Okay, cool. We're still walking this
So I think
walk.
there's also a process of you have to keep bringing it back to him. Like, what is your will for this season of my life? What are you calling to? What are you calling me to right now, today, over and over again? Because it's going to change eventually. What he's calling me to is going to look different. Hopefully next season, there's a couple of green lights. Maybe he's opened the doors. But I think just that process of bringing it to him over and over again. And I think also what we're saying too is admitting that it's not fun because we're giving him it's a sacrifice. You think that's fun? Like,
no,
talking about practice, like, baby, this is not fun, but it's a sacrifice that we know is honor him. But I think he's also honored when we admit, God, this is not fun for me. Like, I'm struggling with this. I don't think you have to pretend like, oh, it's so fun. I sacrifice and I let go of my vices. It's baby, it's ghetto.
Yeah.
But it honors him, so I'm going to do it,
That's really what it comes down to, is like living your life in a way that honors him.
Yeah.
I think even for thinking about like, okay, you've talked a little bit already about like, how do you get to the point where you even understand what it is that God wants for your life, which is really just like continuing to be in constant communion with him. Like, you can't know what God's saying to you if you don't talk to him. Like, which is, it seems like a no-brainer.
Right.
But I realize even in my own life how life, all the things of it can get in the way of just like sitting to be like, okay, Lord, where we at? What are we focusing on in this season? And it's oftentimes not that God's not speaking, it's that we're just not listening. Baby. We're not getting quiet or still enough. I'm talking to myself, being on the go so much. You're not getting still enough to really hear what it is that he has to say. So I think like would love to hear from you. Like, how did you come to a point of knowing? Because interestingly enough, we both decided to stop drinking, but for different reasons, I think, and different seasons of our life. And so how did you kind of know for this particular season, like, drinking was something, or like not dating was another thing? What brought you to that understanding?
I don't think there was like one aha moment where it was like, I was with God and he downloaded like, it wasn't that. I think I slowly became clear about what the season was requiring of me. And I realized that my habits and patterns were not going to sustain me. Like I was going to burn out too fast. So if I'm serving at church on Sunday and I got to be there 7:30 to 12 and I'm ministering to people, like what I do Saturday night matters. And so I started to connect of like, oh, what I'm doing all these other spaces is influencing my ability to do this thing well. So if we are going to record a podcast on Saturday morning, how I spend my Friday night is going to influence if I'm energetic, if I'm exhausted, if I've spent time with him, like all that stuff is going to show. And so it kind of reminds me of practice. It's like, I'm realizing this is game time for me in this season.
That's good.
And my practice is going to show whether I practice or not. And so it wasn't that he gave me clear boundaries, is that I got clear on what he was calling me to do. And I realized that in order to do that well, some things had to fall off the wayside. So do I want to date right now? Like, yes, I would love to date. But what he's calling me to prioritize, that's not what he's saying is the top priority right now. And I just have said, okay. So it's funny. I never said I wasn't going to date. It just was like in September, my last little dating experience, I said, okay, God, let's go to Christmas. and let's just see what you got to say. And then my therapist is like, you should consider not dating for a while. And I was like, devil is a lie. You don't get off my Zoom. Then I was like, let me consider. So then I did Christmas, and then I did a fast in Christmas. I did a fast in December around like breaking some things and like preparing for marriage. And then I was like, all right, God, let's see about to my birthday. Let's just, it wasn't even like I made a decision. It just was like, let me give it up for this amount of time and let's see what happened. But every time I would give it up, something else new he would give me. It was like Rudolights popping up. And I'm like, I'm really clear about, I got to devote all of my energy and time to this right now. And so I think it just was like little measurements. And then when I would try to do a thing, it just wasn't sitting right. Like I try to go back on a dating app and I just like, I feel really unsettled. Like
you can feel it
I didn't have any peace about it. So it wasn't any clear list. It was like, I got clear about what he called me to do. I was discerning how he was calling me to do it. And I was realizing that there were some patterns that simply were going to burn me out and leave me too exhausted to do what I knew he called me to do. And I'm still going to him for all those things, you know, but I think it's just been an ongoing process of just like, what are you asking me to do? And what is that going to require? And will you give me the strategy to do it? Because I need your strength. Like I'm tired, but also like I can't be up late if I got to be up tomorrow morning. Like I have to make some sacrifices. And I think that was part of it. It's like, I didn't want to sacrifice. I wanted all the glory and the glitz and the, you know, but I didn't want to let go of nothing. But I realized like, if I want what you have for me, I got to release what's in my hand. And the vice is what was in my hand. Cause I was like, this is what I know, God, this is what makes me comfortable. And I feel like he was like, let that go. Cause I got something better. And if you let that go, I'm about to give you rest and peace and joy and rejuvenation. I'm going to redeem your friendships. I'm going to give you clarity, purpose. And so it also was me being willing to let go of what I knew to receive what he had for me. That was kind of deep.
It was. Wow. Need some space.
I didn't know all that.
That's really good.
That was new information to me. All what I said is new. Sort of like 90%.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it kind of goes back to what we were talking about of like, there's so much more on the other side when you're willing to let go of things. And what you let go of looks different, you know?
So true.
Like there may be different things that, you know, we're talking about vices from the perspective of things that we were holding on to that did not have like positive influences in our life. But it could be other things that you just need to make room for more in your life by not participating in, going to, you know, behaving in whatever different activities, but just to carve out more space for God to do more things in your life. I think like when I think about my life, a lot of it was just patterns. Like I would pay attention to how I would feel after participating in certain things and like how I would think, how in the process, maybe I felt one way, but in the aftermath, I'm facing a lot of like either shame or guilt. And anything that comes from God's hands is good. And so there is no shame or guilt on the other side of those things. And so I would kind of like sit with some of my decisions, particularly around drinking. And I would be like, well, why am I feeling this way after I partake in this thing? And I'm like, it's like I'm not able to reconcile being able to participate in this anymore because now on the other side of it, like this is not adding up, you know, and I'm not, and I mean, we don't even have to get into the like actual physical effects of alcohol on your body, on your mind, you know, on your emotions. Like there's just so much information also that I know now that it's just like, oh, well, the direction of my life that I want it to go, this is actually not really helping me because either I don't feel good, like physically I'm feeling sick, or I'm not in a sober enough mind state to be able to make good decisions. And so this is not moving me forward in that way as well. But I think like I didn't realize until on the back end that I was resisting really something that God had been pressing on my heart for a very long time because I was so busy like gut checking my life according to other people's lives. And so I think sometimes letting go is also because you're comparing what you can do in your own life to what other people can do in theirs. And you are your own individual person, and how God has wired you and what you are triggered by or how things respond in your life and in your body are completely different from everyone else's. And so just realizing and accepting that, I think was the hardest part. Accepting that like my life may have to look different from my friends, even from my family, you know, like being at Christmas, I'm the person who makes the punch, you know, and the punch is spiked because like I'm the one who loves to make cocktails. And so even this past Christmas was different because I'm making everybody else's drinks, but I'm like, not having any myself. So I'm making mocktails and it's fine. But through this process, I also learned that my grandmother has been sober for like 20 years. I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
I never noticed that she didn't like join in, but I didn't think anything of it. And so I think even too, just how it is redeemed, you know, my perspective and my relationships with my family by deciding to say yes to something that God was like, hey, this might be a better option for you. And to your point, it's like, this is what it looks like right now.
Right.
I mean, 10 years from now, I don't know if it'll be different, et cetera, et cetera. But like right now, this feels like the best decision for me. And it feels like the one that I'm like, okay, Lord, I know that you're going to help me in this and you continue to help me honor you in this. And so I'll keep saying yes.
Yeah. You also made me think of something with like social media, because we're talking about like drinking and things that people, I think in the Christian world, think are inherently, it's like an evil, like it's a bad thing. But like we also both gave up social media for months. So I think that when you talk about vices, it's not even something that's necessarily bad. It's just not serving you. Like we both got off of social media because I'm like, social media is not serving me. Every time to your point about how I feel afterwards, I would get off social media and I would feel like my life sucks. Everybody's traveling. Everybody's married. Everybody's going up. Back to your thing about comparison. I'm like, this is not helping me in a season where I'm struggling to be comparing like people's highlights to like my everyday life. Like this is making me feel bad. So why would I keep engaging in it? That was another question I had for myself. I'm like, is this serving me? And if this is making me feel worse than before I engage, why would I keep putting myself through the process of like engaging it? So I just want to make that delineation, because I think we could say liquor and people, well, I don't drink. I'm like, it's anything that's not actually helping you live the life that God is calling you to live, or anything that's like sucking your joy away. I'm like, social media was just making me feel like my life was trash. I would just be like, man, everybody and then traveling.
Going back to what you said in the beginning, like you talked about sweets and how you were using like food as a crutch. And so it's not necessarily the thing itself. Right. It is what is driving you to that thing. Yeah. And how are you using it in your life? Exactly. And that could be time spent with people. Like that could be places that you choose to go. That could be what you choose to do with your time, what you choose to consume from a music, from a visual standpoint, what you choose to watch. Like all of those different things impact whether or not you're moving closer to or further away from the person that God has called you to be.
Wow.
Dang. Bars.
Yikes.
Bars on that.
Okay. Well, someone could listen to this and be like, y'all dry, boring, lame-o. Lame. Y'all lame. Boy, y'all do nothing fun. This sounds really boring. Y'all are really corny.
Oh, it came out. I didn't even.
It did.
That
was out loud. They'll survive.
I mean, that's just the Atlanta in me.
You can't help it. So I think people can listen for real and be like, that's really boring. Yeah. Y'all over here talking about being a Christian's fun, but it sounds like you have zero fun in your life, honestly. So like
y'all don't even know fun.
Yeah, y'all are boring.
Yeah.
So what does life look like now in this season when you've let go of some of those vices, like you said, that weren't bringing you closer to who God was calling you to be?
Yeah, I mean, you know, some of the things too, I think there's a distinction between like letting go of how you interact with something and then letting go of something completely.
That's a good point.
Those are two different things too. There are some things that I've just let go completely, like drinking being one. I'm like, nah, I'm good on that. But then there are other things that I've just shifted my relationship with that thing. Like I don't need to be out in the streets every Friday night at St. X. Like I enjoy still going occasionally, if I'm going to be off the next month. You know, there has to be some stipulations, because it's like, I like to be asleep by 9:30 these days. Call me crazy, but hey, getting 8 hours of sleep, I'm not ashamed. But like, there are just shifts in the relationship sometimes so that you're not like leaning on that thing in the same way.
Exactly.
So there are still things that I enjoy doing. And I think the main thing is just understanding like, it's not bringing me the same type of like life and joy that it once used to. So it doesn't even really feel like I'm giving something up in some instances, because it's like I have changed to where what is fun and what is enjoyable to me has also changed.
Right.
And I think that's something that you learn as you start to let things go that are not influencing your life in a positive way. Then you start to discover other things. So I've learned like, oh, I really enjoy running. Oh, I really enjoy reading. And so now making space for all these other things that like, I knew that I liked them, but now when I think of the idea of like having fun or doing something enjoyable, my mind goes to something that when I finish it, I know I'm going to feel better on the other side. Not something that I'm like, well, this will be fun. And then like, who knows how you feel afterwards. So that has been like a huge release and just like redefining what my idea of fun and enjoyment looks like. And I think many people would be surprised what would come up if they would let go of some of the things that are not so great in their life.
Yeah, because it's costing you more than you know. It's costing you way more. Like that 2 hours of fun, however amount of time you're spending, it's costing you way more on the back end.
My daddy says,
give us one of his good sayings. I know it's good.
If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. Ooh. That's facts,
Come on, Deacon.
If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. And a lot of those things cost your peace.
They do.
They fill you in the moment, but your mind is not settled. Your heart is not settled. And that means it's too expensive.
It's not worth the price to me. It's just not worth the price. Let's see. What does my life look like in this season? I'll quote Glorilla. F-R-E. This way.
No, but actually.
No, but seriously.
Right there,
yeah, you were going to stop.
We'll just end it there.
Hard stop there. It feels like freedom. People keep telling me, like, you look like you're glowing. And I for the long, I'm like, why do people keep saying that? I kept being like, it's the moisturizer. I'm like, I'm not going to say with sunscreen because they ain't paying for no promo.
I know, but if y'all would like to, we would love to. Yeah,
I'm using a certain sunscreen for Black women. Okay. And I was like, I use this sunscreen daily. I moisturize, I exfoliate. Then I was like, oh, it's because I look well. I look happy because I actually am happy. So that's, I would just say there's just a lot more freedom. I feel like I've done a better job of like ending that self-sabotaging cycle that I would be in of like doing something feeling sad or lonely or whatever, using some temporary fix and then feeling horrible about myself and feeling worse than what I was at the beginning. And I feel like I just was like, I don't want to do that cycle to myself. I'm so tired of that. I was tired of myself. Okay. I'm like, girl, something got to give. And so I think I feel so much more rest and peace because I'm not participating in an active cycle of my own self-sabotage. I just didn't want to do that anymore. And so I just feel like I have more clarity, more like mental space. Like part of the reason why I wanted to give up my vices is because I wanted to get clear. And I'm like, these things are like taking up mental energy and like room. Noise is great. Yeah. It was very noisy. And I'm like, it's so much more quiet because I could go home and it's a Saturday night and I'm like, I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm happy with me. And that was part of it too, is like the vices was evidence that I wasn't happy with me.
Ooh.
It was evident I really was unhappy with who I am as a person.
You're literally trying to escape yourself.
Your own self. And you can't. And then you're worse off.
You got to take you.
And then now you're stuck with all your regret for your bad decisions that made you feel bad. Like you're being your own worst enemy. And I feel like once I moved that aside, I got to get to know me and like face the real me and face some real issues through therapy and medicine and some other things I need to really, really fix. And now I feel like I can sit with myself and be like, I can look myself in the mirror and be like, I like you. Like, you're not all the way there, girl, but like, I'm a fan of you, you know? And I think that the vices helped me to get clear about that so I could spend more time with me, not avoiding, bringing it to God and being like, oh, well, after a long day, I'm not going to food. I'm not trying to text some man. I'm like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to walk our dog and we're going to take an hour walk and we're going to process this. We're going to eat a nice, good dinner. We're going to read a book. We're going to watch a good TV show that's going to make us laugh. And we're going to go to bed on time. And you know, that wasn't my process, but I think the pain management says a lot about your trust and your belief in God. And that's what we're talking about too. We're talking about how are you managing the pain? How do you
manage your pain?
Of like your own trauma, of being a human, of daily struggles. Like how are you managing your pain? And the vices feel like a good pain management, but they're just medicine that's going to keep you sick.
Yeah. And it's like you're taking things out of context too, oftentimes. Like these things could be good things, but when you're using them in the wrong way, then you are completely like almost like misdiagnosing.
Yeah.
You know? And so you're not actually getting the thing that will heal you on the other end. Because really, like, healing can only come through him.
Come on.
That's just point blank, period. And I feel like I've run to so many things and people thinking that like, this is the answer.
This is it.
This is going to be the thing.
This is it.
If I could just get to this new promotion, that's going to be it. And then I'm going to feel better or move into this new place or getting this thing or having enough money to buy this thing or whatever the thing might be, getting into a relationship even like
for sure.
That I have been faced even with so many like, oh, you thought that this was going to solve some things. And it's like, no. You still you, and there's still stuff that you need to bring to God to work through. And so there's just so much that we endure in life, and that I think like when I'm thinking about my takeaway from today is like you have to bring that stuff to him, because he's the only one that really has the answer. Like he's the only one that can actually give you something that you feel better on the other side. All that other stuff, you really just wasting your time if you're running to that as a solve from your pain.
There's a word called metacognition. It's a very fancy word that I learned in teaching. And one of the things they taught us as a teacher is that you're teaching your students to think about their thinking. So I'm having this thought, and now it's almost like I'm stepping outside of myself. When I used to teach yoga and mindfulness, I would talk about like, be a gentle observer of yourself. So it's like when I'm watching myself do something, it's almost like I'm sitting in the corner and I'm like, well, what was that about? And a very the hard part is to not be judgmental. It's like to be a very gentle observer and to have curiosity about yourself. And so what I think this is just reminding me of is like metacognition, like this importance of like thinking about your thinking and thinking about what's motivating yourself in a very gentle way, like in a curious way, like, why would you do that? Hey, you did that last time. What was that about? Oh, in the last 5 years, you've been doing this. Like what? And like, I think that curiosity, I think if you bring that to God of like, well, God, why do I keep doing this? And I think just something about that curiosity about your own behavior and your motivations. And I think combining that, like you said, bringing that to God, I think produces a lot of beautiful fruit and healing. And so I think just reminding myself of like, keep being curious about yourself. Keep asking God about yourself so you can get clear about what he's calling you to do and who he's calling you to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a sweet ending.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow.
That's really good.
Well, I hope this blessed me. I can't speak for the people on the other side of this camera, but I hope this blessed them and encourages them. And I hope that no one's leaving feeling condemnation or feeling bad or like shame. Like that is not God's desire. He's not a God of condemnation. So I hope that if you are struggling with something, like it's okay. You're human.
Yeah.
And we're not saying you have to get it perfect, but we're saying there's a God who wants to join you there in that pain, who wants to be the only solution to your pain management, who wants to be the one that heals you and brings you restoration and joy. So we just encourage you, like, to, even as you log off of this or close YouTube, that you would just bring that to him of like, God, I'm really struggling with this thing, and bring it to people you trust and trust that he's going to meet you there and it's going to be beautiful on the other side. Like he's not going to have you give up anything that he's not going to give you something better of. Like what you give up, he will give you something better. Like we are evidence of it. So, we hope that y'all will subscribe, like, share, leave a review, comment, all the little social media, things. But we do love y'all, and we can't wait to talk to y'all again at the next episode. So stay rooted.